It's just going to be too crowded this year, Emma. Your brother's kids need space to play, and you know how small a lake house is. My mom's text glowed on my phone screen, the familiar mix of exclusion and excuses making my stomach clench. Maybe next summer. I glanced out my office window at the construction site next door to my family's cherished lake house, where workers were laying the foundation for what would become my own waterfront dream home. A small smile played on my lips as I typed my response. No problem, Mom. Enjoy your summer. My name is Emma Sullivan, and at 34, I'd spent my entire life being the family afterthought. The quiet one. The responsible one. The one who could always be counted on to understand when she wasn't wanted. While my younger brother Marcus and his wife Olivia paraded their perfect family around like a circus act, I was the single career woman who wouldn't appreciate family gatherings anyway. What they didn't know was that 6 months ago, my grandmother Eleanor had left me a secret inheritance, one that would change everything. Are you sure about this, Emma? Gran had asked during our last private lunch together, sliding an envelope across the table. The lakefront property next to your parents' house, it's yours if you want it. I never told them I bought it 30 years ago, been paying the taxes quietly ever since. I'd stared at her, confused. But why keep it a secret? Bran's eyes had twinkled with mischief. Because I saw how they treated you, dear. How they always pushed you aside for Marcus. I wanted you to have something that was just yours. Something they couldn't take away or diminish. Now, watching the construction crew work, I remembered every summer spent at that lake house, every time I was told to give up my room for Marcus's family. Every holiday I was asked to stay home because space was tight. The property Gran left me was twice the size of my parents' lot, with better views and private beach access. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mom. I knew you'd understand, honey. Marcus's twins need the extra bedroom this year, and Olivia's expecting again. We have to make space for the nursery. I set my phone down without responding and walked out to meet with Carlo, my architect. How's everything progressing? I asked, surveying the site. Perfectly on schedule, Miss Sullivan. The foundation will be done next week, and then we start on the frame. By midsummer, you'll have the most beautiful house on the lake. I smiled, imagining my family's faces when they realized what was happening. They'd been so wrapped up in Marcus's life that they hadn't even noticed the construction next door. Mom and Dad barely spent time at the lake house outside of summer anyway. And Marcus was too busy with his perfect life in the city to pay attention. That evening, as I sat on my temporary rental property's deck overlooking the lake, my phone rang. It was Marcus. Hey sis, Mom told me you're skipping the lake house this summer. You sure? The twins have been asking about their Aunt Emma. The guilt trip. Classic Marcus. I'm sure, I replied calmly. I've got some projects to focus on this summer. You work too hard, Em. You should really try to have some fun sometimes. Start a family of your own. I watched a construction truck pull up to my lot, delivering materials for tomorrow. Oh, don't worry about me, Marcus. I'm building something special. Whatever you say, sis. Hey, since you're not using your room this summer, mind if we store the twins' toys there? Olivia's bringing basically their entire playroom. Go ahead, I said, my smile growing wider. Use whatever you need. After hanging up, I walked down to the edge of my property and looked at my parents' lake house next door. The worn dock needed repairs, the paint was fading, and the garden hadn't been tended in years. They'd been so busy accommodating Marcus and his family that they let the place fall into disrepair. My house would be different, modern but timeless, with huge windows to capture the sunset, a wraparound deck for entertaining, and a private dock that would make their old wooden one look like driftwood. The plans included 5 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom, no more fighting over shower time or being told to wait until Marcus's family was done. As darkness fell over the lake, I thought about Gran and her secret gift. She'd known exactly what I needed. Not just property, but the chance to build something of my own, right next to the place I'd always been told I didn't quite fit. My phone lit up with one final text from Mom. Sent you some pictures of the twins playing in your old room. They're making it their special space. Hope you don't mind I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and reviewed the plans for my house's great room. With its 20-foot ceiling and wall of windows facing the lake, it would be visible from every window of my parents' house. Sometimes the best response to being excluded is to build something bigger than they could ever imagine. and I was just getting started. 2 months into construction, my dream home was taking shape. The frame was up, the walls were going in, and the massive windows I'd specially ordered were being installed. From my rental's deck, I could hear the occasional gasps and whispers from people walking by, admiring what was quickly becoming the most impressive house on the lake. Surprisingly, my family remained oblivious. Mom sent daily updates about Marcus's twins and Olivia's pregnancy, complete with photos of them making memories in the lake house. In my old room, on my favorite reading spot by the window, at the weathered picnic table where I'd spent countless summers being told to make space for others. Then one sunny afternoon, everything changed. I was meeting with the interior designer when I heard my mother's unmistakable voice floating across the property line. Who would build such an enormous house here? It's completely overshadowing our Emma. I turned to find my mom frozen at the edge of my property, her mouth hanging open as she took in the sight of me standing amid construction plans and material samples. "Hi, Mom," I said calmly. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" What are you doing here?" she stammered, looking between me and the partially completed house. "Building my home," I replied simply. "Gran left me the property." "Your grandmother?" But she never. Mom's face paled as understanding dawned. "She owned this lot. All this time." "For 30 years, I confirmed, watching her process this information. She left it to me in her will, along with enough to build exactly what I wanted." Before Mom could respond, Marcus's wife Olivia appeared, holding hands with the twins. "Patricia, what's taking so—" "Oh my God." Her eyes widened as she took in the scale of my house. "Is this why you didn't come to the lake this summer, Emma?" I nodded, enjoying the way Olivia's perfectly maintained composure slipped just a fraction. The twins, however, had no such restraint. "Aunt Emma, are you building a castle?" Sophie asked, bouncing excitedly. "Can we see inside?" Jake added, already trying to pull away from his mother. "Not yet," I said, smiling at their enthusiasm. "But once it's finished, you'll have to come visit. There's going to be a special game room just for kids." "Emma," Mom cut in, her voice tight. "Could we talk privately?" I excused myself from the interior designer and followed Mom to the edge of the property. She turned to face me, her expression a mix of hurt and confusion. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Would it have mattered?" I asked quietly. "You've spent years telling me there wasn't enough space for me at the lake house. Now I'm making my own space." "That's not fair," she protested. "We never meant to exclude you. It's just that Marcus's family needed the room more." I finished for her. "Needed the attention more. Needed everything more." Mom fell silent, looking back at my house in progress. The great room's cathedral windows were being installed, their massive panes reflecting the afternoon sunlight across the lake. "It's going to be beautiful," she finally said, her voice small. "Yes, it is. 5 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. A gourmet kitchen. A deck twice the size of yours. Plenty of room for everyone, when I choose to invite them." The emphasis on choose wasn't lost on her. She flinched slightly, then squared her shoulders. "Your father will want to know about this." "I'm sure he will," I replied. "Just like I'm sure Marcus will suddenly find time to visit more often. Amazing how a better house changes everything, isn't it?" As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Mom just told me about your house. Why didn't you say anything? We could have helped." I showed the message to Mom, raising an eyebrow. "See, already starting." She had the grace to look embarrassed. "We've made mistakes, Emma. Big ones, apparently." "Yes, you have," I agreed. "But this isn't about revenge, Mom. This is about me finally having my own place at the lake, one where I don't have to ask permission to exist." The twins had escaped Olivia's grasp and were pressing their faces against the temporary construction barriers, trying to peek inside. Their excitement was genuine, untainted by the family dynamics that had shaped my summers here. "Can we really visit when it's done, Aunt Emma?" Sophie called out. "Of course," I said, watching Mom's face. "There's always room for family who actually want to be here." Mom nodded slowly, understanding the subtle message. She turned to leave, then paused. "Your grandmother, she must have really understood." "She did," I said softly. "She saw everything." As I watched them walk back to the lake house, Mom lost in thought, Olivia herding the reluctant twins, I felt a profound sense of peace. The house wasn't just a building project anymore. It was a statement, a declaration of my worth that no one could ignore. That evening, sitting on my rental's deck, I raised a glass to Gran's memory. "Thank you," I whispered to the sunset, "for giving me the chance to build something bigger than their expectations." My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. "We need to talk about this house situation." I smiled and set the phone aside without responding. The time for talking was over. Now it was time to build. Late August brought the final touches to my lakefront masterpiece. The landscaping was complete, creating a lush, natural barrier between my property and my parents' weathered lake house. My modern dock extended further into the water than theirs, with a covered boat slip and a sundeck that caught the last golden rays of summer. The contrast between the two properties couldn't have been more striking. As my furniture was being delivered, I noticed increased activity next door. Mom was frantically weeding the long-neglected garden, Dad had hired someone to repair their dock, and Marcus had shown up unexpectedly with his family, the first time he'd ever visited the lake house outside of their scheduled summer stay. "Emma," he called out, jogging over to my property line. "The house looks incredible." "Listen, Olivia," and I were thinking. "No," I said simply, not letting him finish. "You don't even know what I was going to say," he protested. "You were going to suggest moving your family's summer stay to my house instead," I replied, checking items off my delivery list. "The answer is no." His face flushed. "Come on, Em. The twins would love it, and with the new baby coming." "Marcus," I cut him off, finally looking up. "This isn't your backup lake house. This is my home." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "Why are you being so difficult? We're family." "Funny how I'm only family when you want something," I observed. Where was this family spirit all those summers I was told to stay away? Before he could respond, Dad appeared behind him. "Everything okay here?" "Perfect," I said, turning back to my clipboard. Marcus was just leaving. That evening, as I arranged furniture in my great room, watching the sunset paint the lake in brilliant oranges and pinks through my wall of windows, Mom appeared at my front door. "Can I come in?" she asked tentatively. I nodded, continuing to adjust a cushion on my oversized sectional. She walked in slowly, taking in the soaring ceilings, the gleaming hardwood floors, the state-of-the-art kitchen visible through the open floor plan. "It's magnificent, Emma," she admitted. "Your grandmother would have loved it." "She helped design it," I replied. Before she passed, we spent hours going over plans. She knew exactly what this meant to me. Mom sank onto one of my bar stools, looking suddenly older. "I've been thinking about what you said, about how we treated you." I kept telling myself we were being fair, that Marcus needed more because of his family. But she gestured around the room. Clearly we were wrong about a lot of things. I stayed quiet, letting her continue. "Your father and I, we took you for granted. Assumed you'd always understand, always step aside. We didn't realize we were pushing you away." "Did you ever wonder," I asked, my voice steady, "why Gran left this to me and not to all of us?" Mom's eyes filled with tears. "Because she saw what we couldn't, or wouldn't. She saw me, Mom, all of me, not just the convenient parts, not just the pieces that fit into your perfect family picture. She saw how much it hurt every time you chose Marcus, every time you told me to stay away, every time you made me feel like I didn't belong." A sound from the doorway made us both turn. Dad stood there, looking uncomfortable in my grand entryway. "The contractor quoted us $20,000 to update our kitchen," he said, avoiding my eyes. "Said it would help the property value." I almost laughed. Even now, they were competing, trying to keep up. "Dad," I said gently, "this was never about property values. It was about having my own place, where I don't have to apologize for existing." He nodded slowly, finally meeting my gaze. "We got it wrong, didn't we?" "Yes," I agreed. "But that doesn't mean we can't get it right from here." I walked to my kitchen and pulled out 3 glasses, filling them with wine. "Stay for dinner," I offered. "Just us. No Marcus, no Olivia, no twins. Let's talk about how we move forward." They accepted, and as we sat at my dining table, watching boats drift past on the lake, something shifted. The conversation was awkward at first, years of unspoken hurts hanging between us. But it was a start. Later that night, after they'd left, I stood on my deck and looked at the 2 houses side by side. My parents' lake house, with its fading charm and decades of memories, both good and painful. And my new home, built on Grand's love and my own strength, a testament to choosing yourself when others won't. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Mom says you're hosting Thanksgiving this year. I smiled, typing back, yes. But only for those who can appreciate being invited, not those who expect it. As the last light faded from the sky, I raised my glass one final time to Gran. She'd given me more than property. She'd given me the courage to build my own place in the world, right next to those who tried to minimize me. Sometimes the biggest revenge isn't about getting even. It's about building something so magnificent that they can't help but see what they missed all along. And as I looked at my beautiful home, I knew I'd built exactly that.